Hello, welcome to my video. So today I'm going to be speaking to you about coming on and off of antidepressants. I think it is a massive taboo subject that a lot of people find hard to speak about. It's a subject that isn't really touched upon that much, I don't think. It's rare that I see people talking about it, and when I do speak to people about it, I feel like a sense of shame when people tell me that they're on medication. So I really wanted to make a video today to kind of explain my story and maybe put some people at ease and kind of just make you realise that it's nothing to be ashamed of. So I think, like a lot of people who have never been on antidepressants before and don't really know much about them, they are a really daunting subject, and I feel like I avoided the subject for a long time. I knew I was in a really bad place and something that I kind of straight away dismissed. So after kind of first ever experiencing my mental health problems, I think it took me around a year to obviously actually really speak about it. I'd go to the doctors about other things and they would ask about my well-being, and I'd always kind of just dodge around the question and be like, yeah, I'm fine. And then I think the first time I mentioned mental health at the doctors was about anxiety, and I think I've said in quite a few of my videos, mine is and has been like really severe at some points. I'd say probably 2 years ago, there were times where if my mum went out for shopping during the day and I was at home, I would be in my room and I'd hear a noise and I would have an absolute meltdown. I would think there's someone in the house, my whole body would freeze, I wouldn't be able to get up, I would literally be frozen. I physically could, I would be like frantically texting my mum like, you need to come home, you need to come home, get one of the neighbours to come into the house, like help me, help me. And at one point this was happening every time I was left in the house on my own. And like this, the really severe stage of this probably lasted about 3 years. And I think after a while, I felt like it was time for me to mention this to my doctor. So I think after I realised that my health anxiety was getting really bad, as well as my like being alone, I was thinking I was dying every day. Like every kind of disease I knew about or heard about, I would convince myself that I had it. Like, it was a really awful time, and I just felt like I was never happy. So I just mentioned that to my doctor, and I was put on propranolol. So they're actually beta blockers. And what they do is like they reduce your blood pressure and your heart rate. So that feeling you get when you're having a panic attack, they kind of combat those symptoms. So it's not, these can't like cure your anxiety, and I'm not by any means saying that you need medication to do so. It was affecting literally every aspect of my life, and it was a step that I chose to take. But by no means does that mean it would work for someone else. I'm just saying what I did decide to do. So I started taking the propranolol, and I could either take them twice a day, so once in the morning, once in the evening, just every day, which I did do for the first year. But what I do now is, because they also work in this way, which is unlike antidepressants, I now take them as and when. So if I feel my first symptoms of anxiety coming along, the first symptom of anxiety that I get is as though someone is like resting their hand like on this part of my neck. So it's like a just really light kind of like choked feeling. You feel like you've got something stuck in your throat and that you can't breathe. And that's always the first symptom I get, and I think I probably get about half an hour from that point until I'm having a full-blown panic attack, like if I can't combat it. So when I get that feeling now, I will take a propranolol. I will try and do some mindfulness, and I will try and breathe, but in the moments that I'm getting this, it doesn't actually work for me all the time. So what I do is I take a propranolol, and then symptoms will ease within 10 minutes, and you don't even feel it happening. You just remember that you were having a panic attack earlier and now you're not. So they're really good, and they really helped with my anxiety. But what they don't help with is depression, and that is something that, again, I hadn't really come to terms with at the time. It was something separate to my anxiety. So I think I probably left that quite a while after the propranolol, I'd say another year. And then last year, I noticed that I was sad a lot more than I was happy. Like everything did seem just so grey, and I felt like I was just stuck in this complete pit of helplessness. I was going to counselling, I was doing everything I could to help myself. I'm studying at uni, I know everything I could possibly know about mental health, but I'm not happy. I had everything in my life that I could want. I had all like the best friends, the best relationships and family and everything, and I just weren't happy, and I knew that this was something that wasn't to do with me. It wasn't something that I could change just by changing something in my life. This was something chemical inside me that wasn't, it was imbalanced, and I realised this once I started my therapy and kind of just taking a step back and having a look, and I thought, you know what, this is I've got to a brick wall now and I need some assistance. I wasn't getting any further by myself. I was getting deeper and deeper into a pit, and I really didn't want to stay on rock bottom any longer. So I went to the doctors and I got my first batch of antidepressants, which was sertraline, and they gave me 50 milligrams. So with antidepressants, you have to slowly build up your tolerance to them. You can't just take a full-blown dosage because they have some really severe side effects. So you have to wean yourself on them, and you have to wean yourself off them too. So I started taking my 50 milligrams of sertraline, and I can't remember completely, but I think it was either 3 to 6 weeks I took them for before I upped my doses to 100. So when I first started taking them, they told me that taking antidepressants isn't something that works like taking a paracetamol. So you don't take it and then feel better. This is something that has to build up inside your body. So sertraline, which is what I was taking, is from the drug which is called an SSRI. And that stands for selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. And basically it means that our brains produce serotonin, which is the chemical that makes us feel happy. And people that need to take antidepressants are obviously struggling with the production and it's not even the production, they're struggling with how their body uses the serotonin and how the serotonin is distributed around their body. So these SSRIs, they don't make you produce more serotonin, but they stop the blood from absorbing all of it, so that the serotonin that you do have gets used up in the right ways. So it literally just stops your blood from absorbing it all and taking it all away from you. So this actually they take around 3 months for you to actually feel benefit from them, which obviously at first I was like, oh, it's so annoying, I just want it to work now. I think when you're put on antidepressants, it's because you are at rock bottom most of the time, so you don't really want to have to wait 3 months to start feeling better, but it is just how they work. And I can't tell you how hard that first probably 3 weeks was when I first started taking them. I've never in my life felt so unwell. I had a headache for the entire first week. I had such a bad stomach. I was throwing up. I was dizzy. It was awful, and there were so many times that I considered stopping them. I even rang 111 at one point because I was so unwell and I thought I was going to pass out. So the symptoms were really bad. But again, I'm someone that's worried about my health and that gets really anxious about that stuff. And I've had other people that haven't had them that bad, but for me it was a big struggle, but I persevered. And I then went up to the 100 milligrams, which I was really worried about because obviously of my side effects previously. But they actually didn't really make much of a difference in terms of side effects. I think once it was in my body and it was getting used to that drug, I was fine. And then I can honestly say that being on antidepressants for the last year of my life completely transformed my life. I've become a different person. I just can't explain how much stronger it made me. I've gotten myself through things by myself that I never ever would have gotten through without them, and they've assisted me with so much. I struggled a few times with maybe feeling a bit like I was numb, but I definitely wouldn't say this was the whole time, and I think it was more just periods I went through. But then because I struggled for a few weeks, I couldn't cry, and that really worried me because I am a crier. I cry every day, and that worried me. But then that went, and you go through these little phases, and there is the ups and downs to them. But the strength that I found in myself over the last year because of the assistance of these tablets is something that I've never known before in myself, and it has enabled me to go to therapy and to be able to listen and to take on board all this advice and be strong enough to use it. I think when I was going to therapy before, where I didn't have this assistance and I was so deeply unhappy, I couldn't use the advice because I couldn't bring myself to do it. I didn't have that little lift that I needed, and that's exactly what these have done for me, and I honestly couldn't recommend them more for someone that really does think they've tried everything else. I was worried about becoming addicted to them and feeling like I would never be able to wean myself off them because of how much I knew they were helping. Like, why would I ever want to come off them? But then I was also reminded that if you need to be on them for a long time, that is absolutely fine. Research does show that they don't actually damage any of the organs in your body. They're not dangerous for you, so you can be on them long term. But so I always just said to myself, you know what, don't have a goal when you're going to come off them. You will know in yourself. And then I think, so that was January 2019. So in January, I decided that I had come through the barriers that I needed the assistance with, and I was now ready to tackle these on my own. I was ready to come clean off my antidepressants and really start to move forward from this. I felt like I'd jumped over so many barriers, and I just felt like it was my time. And everyone is right when they say you just know, because I just knew. And it wasn't because I felt like I'd got rid of my depression, because I know that's something that I will never get rid of, and it's something that I battle with every single day. And there's days now, like when I regret coming off them and I think I wouldn't feel this low if I had that assistance. But because when I was using them, I went to therapy and I learned the right strategies, and I was in the right mindset to properly absorb them and take them in and learn them as like these core exercises that I can do. I now have them installed in me, and I'm strong enough to use them because I learned them when I was in a really good place and when I had all that assistance from the sertraline. So now I feel like I can use them because I already know them. Obviously it doesn't work all the time, but then who's happy all the time? I know that's never going to be the case. So coming off them was probably worse for me than when I was coming on them. So I started weaning off in January. So I was on 100 milligrams. So I went straight down to 50 milligrams. And I can't explain how I felt. It was more, I for the whole year of taking the antidepressants, when I missed a dose, so if I missed a dose by literally 5 hours, I would know, because I would start feeling really dizzy and really sick. And it would remind me, and that's why I felt like it. And as soon as I'd taken it, I'd feel better. And I don't know whether that was subconscious or not, but I did seem to know in my body when I'd forgot to take my tablet. So when I went down to my 50 milligrams, I felt that feeling, but obviously it was quite intense, and it was for long periods of the day, because I wouldn't take the tablet when I felt it. These are withdrawal symptoms. So I really struggled with them. I was getting headaches again and feeling quite dizzy and sick, the same kind of symptoms. And I was getting these things that really scared me at first, until I spoke to a few people that I know have had them and been weaned off of antidepressants before. And they're called like brain zaps and body zaps. So I can't explain it other than it literally feels like you're being electrocuted, but not in a painful way, just in like I was going to do an impression, but I'm not going to. It's like your whole body just kind of like vibrates, and you get like a shock through your heart. And like, obviously that's really, really scary, and I was really panicking at first, and I thought, oh no, like I've come off them too quick, this is dangerous, I'm scared. But then I spoke to a lot of people and I realised it was normal, and it's something that lasts quite a long time once you're coming off them, and it's just something you have to deal with. So when I went down to 50 milligrams, that was what I started feeling, and I went down to 25 milligrams, and again I felt the same, was feeling a little bit worse, and so on. So I gradually come off them, and it took me to mid-March to completely come off them. And apart from the physical side effects, I hadn't felt any of the mental side effects yet. And I was thinking, oh, maybe I'm fine. But then I realised, like when you go on them, it takes the 3 months, and I think it does the same when you come off them. Well, for me it did. So didn't really coincide it very well with the start of the nationwide lockdown, because the first week that they were fully out of my system, in terms of like the half-life and how it all works when you're weaning off them, the first week that I didn't have sertraline in my system, assisting all this serotonin from going to the right parts of my brain and my blood through not absorbing it all, this wasn't happening anymore from the first week of lockdown. So a girl who can't spend a night in her own bed, can't spend a night away from her friends or her boyfriend, she has come off of her antidepressant. She has quite bad anxiety. She can't be on her own. Really bad separation anxiety, and then we get locked down in our houses, away from our family and friends and boyfriends and girlfriends for God knows how long. So I feel like a lot of this all hit me in one go, and I really struggled, and I thought what awful timing it was for me to come off of these tablets and then to be going through like probably one of the biggest life changes I've ever been through. And there's been times when I've really been at rock bottom with this, and it's by far been the hardest test I've ever had to go through. I can kind of come out of this and think, do you know what, I actually did this, and I didn't just do it, I did it all by myself. I can't even believe I'm saying it. Like, I am genuinely really proud of myself. I'm really happy that I've done it. I'm going to make this video is just because I think there's such a stigma on taking medication for mental health, and it just really annoys me because I think if you had something physically wrong with you, if you fell over and broke your leg and someone offered you some painkillers, you're not going to turn them down. You're not going to be like, no, that's masking the problem, that's doing this, that's doing that. It's not, because paracetamol isn't going to cure your broken leg, but you will take it to numb the pain so that you can deal with it. And that is exactly what taking antidepressants does. It helps you to not feel everything so deeply. But rather than your emotions being like that, so low and so high, it levels them both out. And it brings you to a place where you can really get in control of your life, and you can learn all these strategies that you need to do to build yourself back up and to get stronger. And there's nothing wrong with taking medication as an assistant to do that with. There's also nothing wrong with doing it by yourself, and I'm not saying anyone needs to take it or everyone needs it and all this. I'm just saying genuinely what worked for me. So I just don't want people to completely throw it out the window because they've heard negative things about it or that there's a bad stigma around it. I just think you really need to put yourself first. I'm happy for people to message me, to ask me for more details about like my experience with them and so on, and I'm not being biased, and I will completely listen to what you've got to say. Obviously I'm not a doctor, but I just want people to know that I'm here for advice, and it's something I've been through myself and something I have like a great opinion on, and I just don't want people to like disregard things because of how society portrays them. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I really hope it has helped you. If you've had any doubts in your mind or questions about what to do, or yeah, I just hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching.